I looked deeper because I suspect as more people start to get on board, they'll start to ask basic questions, as they should in due
Yeah.
diligence. Because I know sometimes you'll say, okay, this pilot has this many hours with this type of plane or this type of flight or these destinations. And I know that information is available within the flight, FAA and others, but
Yeah.
are there basic credential information pieces that regular people can verify independently to say, no, Nick Scott's got thousands of hours on flying, and then he's got these people that are going to come on board to work this, and they've got this much time that might be made available to them?
That's a really good question. Aviation is such a unique industry that,
Yeah.
you don't see many pilots like on LinkedIn for commercial airline pilots. So for myself, I mean, it really started like most people and, had the passion of always wanted to be an airline pilot. I'd be more than happy to put out like a resume or something like that. I know some of the videos I've already got ready to go. I've done like in the cockpit and stuff, but in terms of the guys that we are going to hire, I'm really excited about that, strictly because I am a pilot. I know how pilots think. I know what they want. I know how they want to be treated, and pilots are the most simple, complex human beings ever. So especially if it's my wife. But we're hiring 4 pilots out the gate, and we've already got just under 4,200 resumes for those 4 spots. Compensation is going to be industry leading. Time off is industry leading. I could go on and on, because you want people that are solid, that'll treat the plane with respect, but more importantly, treat your passengers with respect. So the way I view it is, we're going to have a lot of people that have never been on a private jet before. And so I want that experience for them to be like a lifetime memory, something they'll never forget, being able to hop on an Ethjet Gulfstream for cheaper than you could, for a family of 4 down to Disney.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Let me ask the hard question, because I got to ask, and this
Yeah.
comes from me. Nick Scott does not share this opinion. I must ask it for myself. How, if it's even been thought of, maybe it's not, but how do you avoid, there were stories predominantly, let's say, I want to say it was like early 2017, when we had a new president come in office. And unfortunately, there were certain pilots who didn't agree with that particular president coming in office for whatever reasons. And they went on the loudspeaker and did all sorts of frankly unprofessional, regardless of what you think. It's like you're taking people's lives in your hands when you get in that plane. So that's one. And then just recently we had a situation where they couldn't land. I believe it was in New York or somewhere. They couldn't land, and they tried. There was like 4 aborted landings, and the people were freaked out, fainting and all this. And they wanted to get off the plane when they did it. I think it was Newark, and they weren't allowed to get off because there's regs that say you can't.
Well, it's because it's custom flight. Yeah.
Oh.
That's the only reason why. I know the media's making a big deal, but it's because the flight originated in Mexico and was flying to New York. Customs is something that there's no leeway. So if you don't have the customs officials there that can off-board the people there with the proper paperwork, they will not let you get off. When I flew corporate jets and we would pick somebody up in Mexico and land in Houston, if there wasn't a customs official waiting there for us, sometimes we'd wait in the plane for 4 or 5 hours waiting for that customs individual. We couldn't even open the door. They're that strict about it.
That goes to my question, because you could theoretically have private flights that are in a similar situation for whatever reason. And I think certain people, just because of what they are seeing, because of the media, the way they present it, might be sketchy. And I would argue I'm one of them, might be sketchy to go through even the risk that happens. Or it could be something where it's like truly a weather condition that causes that. So I want to try to understand if it's even been thought of, and if it's not, that's okay. But has there been any thought of just information to try to talk about? Goes to education, right? The customs you just broke down is good to know, but also here's our plan, right? We're dealing with pilots that have experience doing this, and we commit, we're not going to get on the loudspeaker and trash the president, and we're not going to, just, I don't want to say policies because that's not the right word, but some kind of code of conduct, I guess, is the best word for it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, this is at a, especially a Gulfstream, not understating, some of the mid-size or smaller charter aircraft, but a Gulfstream is seen as, one of the most elite corporate jet aircraft in the world. So the pilots operating those didn't just start in a Gulfstream. They started in a small plane, worked there. I mean, we're talking decades of work to get into a Gulfstream. It is seen as the top of the top in the corporate industry. So there will absolutely be a policy in place in terms of keeping your personal political views to yourself, but it is a different environment because the airlines, you got to go from A to B. You don't,
Yeah.
as an airline captain, if I divert, it has to be for a very, very serious reason, because I'm now taking that aircraft out of a network that plane had planned on going to 5 other places that day. Whereas in private jet travel, let's say there is an issue or it's looking gusty and it's a first time group. Our pilots, we're going to give them the authority and leeway to say, hey, make the best and safest decision. If you think it's better just to head, to an airport that's 60 miles south of where you're intended to go. Let us know and we'll have, transportation waiting when you land. So there is a lot more flexibility on that end. But in terms of just professionalism, I don't want to
Yeah.
bash on the airline industry because I am an airline captain. I'm a line check airman at my airline, meaning when we hire new pilots, I train them in the plane. So they go through the simulator for 3 months, extensive training. Their first flight in a real plane is with passengers. Only 1% to 2% of all captains at an airline are line check airmen. And so that's something I do talk about, just that professional etiquette, but you are the voice and what you say is typically taken at word. That said, in the airline industry, what happens is when you're in the left seat as a captain for a long period of time, you it's easy to develop, I hate to say it like that, that godlike syndrome, because everybody answers to you, the gate agents, the flight attendants. Nothing moves without you saying, let's go. Every decision that needs to be made is brought to you. You can kick whoever you want off. You could do really anything you need to do or want to do. And so some guys take that too far and think that their opinion can be broadcast over to 230 people, which is totally uncalled for. So that will absolutely not happen at Ethjets. I can tell you that much.
Will the service support, I don't want to say international, perhaps continental, cross-continental is probably a better word, because I'm assuming some of the flights, some of the planes involved wouldn't be able to do, say, Nevada over to Malaysia just because of the plane. But perhaps they could go, obviously, to Canada, perhaps to parts of the UK. If that's part of the plan, first part of the question, if it is there any part, and whether it even involves Ethjet directly or if it's just under a different guidance, but anything around mental wellness, mental health, emotional situations where, things happen. People have lives outside of flying, but sometimes we've seen where pilots, they have traumatic situations and then it's harder for them to make the judgment calls for safety. And anything you can talk about that.
Absolutely, man. This is, I gotta give you credit. These are great questions. These are questions nobody asks. Usually it's just mint price and how many. So kudos to you for asking that. Absolutely. It's a very, very high stress job, and it's also a high reward job. How you cure that is typically with flexibility. So our pilots, and we're going to be one of the few companies to do so, will have a rotating schedule, but we're going to give them the flexibility to drop swap. So if, let's say, pilot Bill, he's got his daughter's 16th birthday and he's scheduled to be on for a 7-day shift, right? We're going to give him the flexibility to call one of the other guys, say, hey, can you swap with me next week? Or myself personally, I'm going to get typed in the Gulf Stream and I'll fill in for guys. So if someone's feeling sick, if there is that 16th birthday, I'm going to absolutely tell them, you stay home. Family time is important. Take care of your family, go enjoy it, and I'll go on that trip and take care of it for them. So having that flexibility is probably the biggest aspect to a pilot's life, because that's where stress comes in. Wife's upset, you're gone too much, you're missing this, you're missing that. And so now being able to say, hey, let me call so-and-so and see if he can swap with me and have that flexibility, not many companies give that to their pilots at all in the jet charter industry. So I think that's, word is getting out, and that's why we have so many applications.